Momowawa?
Momowawa. Momowawa?
It's a new exhibit. The Wawa at the Momo. When I twirl my mustache, it's like fire crinkling.
Mustache Fire. Mustache Fire is incidentally the name of nothing important, I suppose.
Whose new band or album?
Cover band?
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be a cover band, but I don't know for who.
Who would you be covering? Mustache Fires. Who has mustaches?
You do.
Jeff Foxworthy.
Okay.
It'd be the Adam Monte cover band.
We do musical interpretations of the blue-collar comedy bits. Mustache Fire.
I give you the chance to be a cover band, and that's what you go for?
Could you be the cover band for Stash and Shades?
Oh,
We
God.
are our own cover band. Yes!
That's cool. I like that.
We should totally do a No Shame performance like, yeah, this is a cover of a Stash and Shades. Come as different characters. Gentlemen, welcome to another week of this shindig, this shoe
What that we call
really big
podcast.
shoe.
that we call podcast. Yes.
Yeah.
What's going on in everybody's life? What it is?
Well, I just finished 7 shows of Annie in 72 hours.
Holy crap.
We did our first show for an audience on.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, we
There you
did
go.
our
There you go. Go
we
ahead.
did our first show for an audience on December at Wednesday, December 7th. Sorry,
yeah.
at
On
7:30.
December.
Quiet. Yeah, I'm just so tired right now. And we did our last show on Saturday, December 8th at 7:30. So that would be 7 shows of Annie in 72 hours. And mind you, the show is about 2.5 hours long. So that's really like a 7.5 hour break between stop and start time of each show of Annie, if it averaged out evenly. But it
You've
doesn't.
really done more Annie than not Annie in the last 72 hours, is what you're saying.
Almost, yeah. That would be a true factual statement. And as you can hear, I'm a little bit sick. Unfortunately, right as we were entering into Tech Week, I got a head cold, and so my voice has been going in and out. There were a couple of moments, and I will admit this on the podcast to everybody listening. There were a couple of moments during the big group numbers where I was just moving my mouth and doing the dance steps because I was saving my voice for that one, the cabinet scene where we have to hit that tight harmony, and I know I'm the only one singing the E, so I need to save it for that one moment.
I have one job on this ship, and
Right.
it's to sing that E.
So, but it's been, it's been fun. The orchestra sounds phenomenal. We've got an 11-piece orchestra, live orchestra, which is, I don't think I've sung with a live pit orchestra in over a decade. Like it's all been, recorded tracks or, things like that. And they sound phenomenal. It's some of the best musicians out of the Schwob School and people in from Atlanta, a couple of people that flew in from around the country, and they just have an amazing sound.
Oh, good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's been exciting. And so I'm in a 3-day rest period until we do our next school show.
Hibernation.
Yes.
If you need Adam, he will be hidden in a cave
That's right.
in Montana, hiding from musical theater.
But it's been a lot of fun. And I've started, Raymond Campbell. You know Raymond.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been fun getting to know him because we've only known each other, casually through, handshakes at galas, and he sat on our board at when I was at CSU and everything. And but it's been fun getting to know him. I think I've seen a little glimpse of what I'm going to be in the future.
Gonna be.
Well, okay, sure. Fair.
What about you, Aaron? What's going on with you?
Well, I posted a wish on Facebook for a Christmas show because I didn't have any work, and then I suddenly got called in to stage manage the Merry Little Holiday Shorts at On Stage Atlanta.
Cool.
And then I posted a wish for a film career, and I booked Home Depot Industrial. So I'm thinking very carefully about what my next Facebook wish is going to be because I'm having a really good rate of return right now.
Probably got one more in you before they're used up for the year.
Exactly.
Get it in
Well,
just under the wire.
that'll be good. If I could have 3 a year, I think I could be all right with this system.
I guess, do you spread them out or do you get them all in January and just
Well, this year
hope they ride out?
they all seem to be December because I just found out about it.
Well, maybe it's like a wish honor system. Like you try for the other 11 months to get it on your own, and then the last month you're like, okay, look. I tried, and now can you just grant some wishes for me?
I say you go bold and wish for more wishes right now.
Oh, the genies are all up on that rule. They know.
Well,
they have a handbook.
This is a Facebook genie.
We
He's
don't
only
know
been
that
around, yeah, for a short period of time. He may not have been talking to the other genies.
Oh, he's a young genie. Like, I wish for more
Genie.
wishes. Like,
Genie 2.0.
right. I'm gonna +1 some wishes.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, speaking of wishes, that brings me actually to my article.
How fortuitous.
It is. It is sort of an article of it's sort of a 'tis the season article, in a way, whatever season that may be. But it's about this charity called Child's Play, which you may or may not have heard of. It's by the guy that runs Penny Arcade. And in 2003, as sort of a small thing, he started this charity called Child's Play, where he would encourage either, I think, direct donations or cash to buy video game products for children in hospitals, for waiting rooms and things like that. In the first year, they raised like $250,000 just in the first year, and then it went nuts. And apparently, I hear it was right before Penny Arcade, which is an online webcomic, got really big, and it's very big now. And so these things kind of all happen at the same time, and now the charity itself is huge, and Penny Arcade, the comic, of course, is huge. But I think I looked up some stuff on their website, which is childsplaycharity.org. And some of the stuff that really got me were the testimonials of why you would give video game equipment to kids in waiting rooms. And it seems pretty obvious, of course, but I want to read the testimonials anyway. Okay, so one of them says, your donations support seriously ill children in hospitals by distracting them from their illness and help them to cope with fear, anxiety, and boredom. The Wii systems, including our new favorite on the floor, Rock Band, allows our older patients to enjoy their time at the hospital, forget the often physically and emotionally painful conditions in treatment, and spend time with their brothers, sisters, and visiting like they did at home. And they talk a lot about just getting a sense of not only distraction, but a sense of normalcy in their lives. They're undergoing such often stressful, physically and emotionally, times that anything you can latch onto to just feel like you're just a kid is very, very useful. Okay, one of the things they mentioned, it's not a testimonial, but it is a thing that's that I found on their press packet on their site. Says studies have shown that children who are able to play games while undergoing very painful procedures request less pain medication, which I thought was interesting. And they talk about technology like the Wii Balance Board and Kinect. They allow kids to find a different way to participate in certain physical therapy activities, which I thought was really cool. And it makes the whole hospital experience a little more enjoyable, and the staff, I think, a little more approachable. And I think it hits on a couple of things we talked about before, which was we talk about an MRI machine once that was geared to be a little more kid friendly. And just things like that. I mean, just things to sort of soften the edges of a very clinical experience.
Sure.
So anyway, childsplaycharity.org. Go check it out. It's in the Seattle area, but they donate, I think, to hospitals all over the country. So yeah, do stuff.
That sounds that sounds wonderful, and it's amazing how basic. Too, how simple. Once you say it, you're like, oh yeah, duh.
Of course, right?
Distraction. Yeah.
That's why it's probably a great idea. That's probably why it took off so quick. You're like, oh yeah.
This makes sense. Yeah, and it can make an immediate difference. Yeah.
Yep. Well, and Aaron, you're pediatrician type people, so I don't know if you guys have video games around or what, but
Huh.
you at least can speak to the experience of.
Well, I mean, we try definitely to make. I mean, we're a primary care practice. My parents' practice is a primary care practice, so it's generally not quite as intimidating and long term as it sounds like these groups tend to be.
Hmm.
But yeah, you always try and decorate and keep things in, you know, comfortable surroundings and not make it look like a doctor's office,
Right, right.
as much as possible. It's got to be functional, but we have books all over the place. We have a little bit of some toys. There are different posters in the different rooms, and the everything is tries to be as welcoming and friendly and warm as possible.
Yeah.
Neat.
I can speak a little bit to personal experience. I went when I was in first grade. I went into the hospital for about 3 days because I had a lot of allergy and breathing problems growing up, and they wanted to put me in for testing because when they took me into our primary care office, they did a little lung capacity test on me, and they said I was only up to like 25% of my lung capacity. And so at the time, they wanted to put me in the hospital because they thought I might have cystic fibrosis. The tests were a lot more complicated back then. Now they're a little bit more simple. You don't have to wait quite as long. But I had to submit to like 3 days of all of these tests. And excuse me. And
Even
even
maybe submitting to more from the
know.
sounds of it.
oh gosh. And so I was in the pediatric wing, but even my memory of it was very cold tile floors and not even a lot of the only difference I can really remember between when I was on the pediatric wing in my room and when I was being carted around to other parts of the hospital for testing, the only difference I really remember was there were brighter colors on the wall in the pediatrics wing and cartoon characters. That was it, and some torn up, beaten up books and highlights magazines.
Everything else was medical droids.
Yeah, but at the time I didn't know why I was in there. It wasn't until years later that I understood the seriousness of why I was there. It was somewhat terrifying that you're in a house, you grow up, you're in a house, you go to bed, my brother's in the room across the hallway, mom is just down the hallway in her bedroom, and now I'm in this giant room by myself, and I can hear a buzz going on outside my room because the nurse's station is there, and there's always people there, it's always being staffed, and it's
Those creepy hospital sounds.
it's a creepy environment for a little kid. So, man, it would have been great if if somebody had thrown an Atari 2600 my way. Yeah.
I'm going to Cubert my way to health.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of, if you haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph, it's really good. Wreck-It Ralph is really good.
On top of that, maybe if you'd had an Atari in that room, you wouldn't be
Quite so.
bashing at computers with
Right.
crescent wrenches these days. It could have opened up this whole new
That's true.
technology is my friend.
Yeah. Something I consoled in as opposed to something I was surrounded by beeping and flashing. And
Whereas you're just sitting in that hospital saying, I remember the Judgment House. Which way am I going to go?
Yeah.
Well, I've recently gotten involved with a group organization, the Imagination Foundation, which earlier this year, actually, I think I may have mentioned it on the podcast before, but I'll bring it up again because it's end of year and people give away money at the end of the year. Imagination Foundation started with Kane's Arcade, the cardboard arcade built in the front area of this kid's father's auto shop, and he wanted to make games, and so he had cardboard and packing tape and crumpled up pieces of paper and made a 5 or 6 machine cardboard arcade and is at his dad's shop because he would spend his Saturday mornings there or whatever when went to work with dad. And this documentarian found was like he brought his car in one day, and while he was waiting, he discovered Kane in his little arcade and made a massive flash mob documentary project. And so a couple of weeks later, Kane arrived, and there was a line around the block of people who wanted to play his little cardboard
Right,
arcade
right, yeah,
games.
yeah.
And from that and the documentary little short film that was made from it, they basically generated a complete scholarship fund for this kid, and more so got enough attention and money and interest that they've created the Imagination Foundation, which is designed to be a global scholarship fund for encouraging creative entrepreneurship in children, already getting them into the idea that being creative is cool and exciting and a way to make one's living, from a really early age. And so imagination.is/awesome
Cool.
is the lead into Imagination Foundation. And it just seems like a really great project, because one of the things we just desperately need these days is a creative but educated youth upcoming into the world. You know,
They've got to do better than us.
one would hope. But so, and then on another note, I actually have heard recently, of course, the STEM education movement: science,
I
technology, engineering, and mathematics. Okay,
I do not.
so they've redirected a lot of lower education into what they call the STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That if you focus on these things, kids are better equipped to go into the workforce when they graduate. But it's been running a couple of years now, and as the results and the testing and the responses come in, they realize that this has left a problem in the development, and so there's now a movement to change STEM to STEAM. A STEAM-powered education.
Can we guess what the A stands for?
Apocalypse.
You may please guess what
Arts.
the A stands. Exactly.
Yeah.
The idea that there has to be the creative element behind the science and technology and engineering, or else it's just circling in place.
Yeah. Yep.
And so without an arts education, the kids aren't getting the creative impulses to use the science technology to create rather than to recreate. And
Sure.
Imagination
That's neat.
Foundation and the STEAM-driven education model have both got me really charged up and excited right now. So that's the charity I will pimp out for this afternoon's episode.
I think that's really cool because it addresses. I think a big thing is why. Why make a thing? Like, yeah, it's maybe why we have, well, kids like me anyway, had problems in math class. There was a lot of, why am I using this? Like, geometry kind of made sense because, like, oh, sure, I can do something with this. This is, this will help me draw or something. But, if you're going to build, if you're going to grow a little engineer, hopefully they're not just interested in, regurgitating a machine that already exists, but they want to make something that has inspired them, that there's something they're inspired to create and that doesn't exist. And I think that all inspiration requires a little bit of artistic impulse. You know what I mean? To make a thing, I think it's whatever product you're making or whatever it is. I think it comes from an artistic impulse, even if you don't call the end product art. You may not necessarily call a new kind of blender a piece of art, but I think the inspiration to make it is an artistic impulse.
But there is design, and there is aesthetic, and there is...
Or they're at least related.
And there's that questioning of, okay, what can I change and why, rather than this works well enough, therefore it's all right. And that creative change requires training and practice.
Now, I can tell you right off where the problem of this, how to apply this, is going to come from, because it's the idea of having a creative solution, which, of course, helps bolster innovation. It's not, or it's difficult. It's difficult to quantify. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Test.
it's difficult to test, and that's the problem. And it's like this catch-22. We argue that are the students, the graduates, I should say, the graduates that our education program is putting out are not terribly creative, innovative thinkers because we do not reward that type of behavior in the current model that is set up. But if we create a program that is innovative and creative, now there are so many possible outcomes to whatever the question or problem we put forth. How do you measure it? How do you grade it? How do you reward it? How do you base advancement on it? You know,
how do you quantify it?
Right, and that's the problem right now into applying something like
Now,
that.
Adam, what possible experience do you have discussing?
But that's the bigger statement is I really think the overall educational model needs to be examined and refurbished. But the idea that to make the arts a fundamental again in whatever new educational model we need to investigate seems like at least a good move, if not the final move.
Yeah. And currently there is a, because a lot of the STEM research and application is being tied, unfortunately, to a lot of those block grants and those race to the top.
I don't know what those are.
Basically, again, they're trying to figure out a way to quantify, to ask more creative, open-ended questions, but still, how do we measure it? And then the whole question of tying student advancement to maybe teacher salary and things like that. They're trying to figure out how to put it all together. And so there were some block grants and programs that were created a couple years ago that the White House was pushing. Georgia applied and got a lot of them, but basically it's a way to tie teachers' salaries to student achievement. And I don't think a lot of the plans that they put out there right now are typically very good. However, at least they're asking the question. You know what I mean? There's been a reevaluation of what we are teaching our children and how we're getting it across, and that people are finally starting to acknowledge that the scope the scope of information out there is so large, there is no conceivable way that you can expect any one student to assimilate it at all. That was very much a 19th century sort of model, that there's a certain amount of information out there, whether it's, first, second law of thermodynamics, you learn these states, you learn these presidents in order. There were these, blocks of information that we expected children to assimilate.
There's so much more of it now.
Right. And so now people are finally acknowledging, and our education system is beginning to at least acknowledge the fact that it would be ridiculous to try and have a student learn all of these things. And so there's been a reassessment of, and now they're starting to call them Common Core standards, where there are concepts that they want the student to understand that are more open-ended and not
abstractions rather than fact lists.
Thank you. Yeah. And so basically, students at certain grade levels will focus on a particular maybe moment in U.S. history or a particular scientific fact, and approach all of the apply all of the abstract concepts and philosophies to this one specific area. So the idea is we're trying to teach them how to ask the questions as opposed to learning everything they possibly can about how nuclear fusion works or something to that effect. The idea
Nuclear vessel.
Yes, if we teach them the questions, and they can then apply those questions and creative thinking to any question they're presented with, as opposed to
learning why multiplication works rather than just memorizing the multiplication tables.
It's interesting. I think that's a piece of education you get in arts-based training, and I'm trying to find a good way to wrap my head around it and explain it. But I feel like a lot of the critical thinking and analysis skills I get actually come a lot from how to break down a piece of text for dramatic purposes, or how to understand the composition of an image, or how to communicate effectively, which translates, I think, into things like sales and other things, or actually, this is a kind of a weird stretch, I know, but coding, like if you're communicating effectively person to person, and then you start to understand when you're coding that coding is just trying to communicate effectively with the machine, and there are a set of rules for that, which at the end of the day in your program design comes down to an interface later where you're trying to communicate suggested actions to a person using it. I feel like those are somehow all critical thinking skills that for me came out of arts training. Even though they seem kind of disjointed and unrelated. I think it's is holistic the right word? I don't know, but you know what I mean, like a whole
holistic is
approach thing.
That is the right word to use.
Okay,
it's exactly yeah. Because
I use big words. I don't always know what they mean sometimes, but I have to use them.
All three of us have taught, at camps at Springer and some public school systems
with varying degrees of success. Let's be clear.
But what is the challenge we always come across as teaching the dramatic arts is you hit this wall with students and you see it on their face of, well, what's the right answer? What is
right?
Is
what do you mean it's subjective?
Right.
What do you mean? It's safe if I don't offer my input on these things, right?
Yeah.
There is correct and there is incorrect, right? And not everyone's that way. You get some students that are very much the opposite. Like, what do you mean? There's only one answer?
Yeah.
You're full of S.
Yeah.
Trying to get that explicit tag off the show. Oh, I didn't mean to kill your whole conversation thread there.
Oh, no,
sorry.
Just putting it out there that the mindset is ingrained. It's the way our system has been set up. It's just the way it is right now.
But also, it's so I don't think any one of us are doing this, and in fact, I think we're doing the opposite. But it's so easy to just be like, the system just needs to be chucked out and start over, and whatever. But on the other hand, at least everyone.
I'm kind of saying that, by the way.
I know you are.
Finish your thought.
But everyone inside of it, everyone, period, I think, knows, and that's a generalization I know, but everyone knows it's broken.
Yes.
However, probably there were at some point in this whole process to develop the system, some very good intentions, and some people that are deciding, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm gonna stay in it and try to make it better. Who are probably suffering, terribly within the system that they're in. Yeah. And it's almost a cop out to be like, let's just throw it out and start over, when you've got people that are trying really hard to say, you know what, it's never that simple. It's not that simple. We're trying to fix it, even though they might be working against some very tall odds. Yeah. Even if you throw it out and start over, whatever system you come up with to replace it is going to have some kind of problem.
And it's going to be
and someone else is going to be sitting there shaking their fist saying, throw it out and start over.
Yeah.
And you can't do that all the time. So how do we fix what we've got?
I'm very grateful of the really great teachers that I know and are out there and working within the system. But I think the idea that because people are trying to work well within a flawed system, one should maintain the flawed system is not ultimately the answer either.
But you agree do you agree, I should ask, that you can't just throw it all out and start over in a short period of time, because the consequences would be devastating. Any changes you do to a large system like this, you'd have to scale, right?
No, you would definitely have to. I mean, it's a huge problem and a huge thing that we're going to have to figure out and solve. But I don't know that incremental change is right necessarily, but I think you would need to figure out the alternate system ahead of time, and I guess beta test it and shop it and workshop it, and
right.
And then, but I think ultimately at a point we are going to have to say, okay, we've figured out the better system. It may not be the right system, the perfect system, but we figured out the better system, and we need to make a wholesale change once it is ready to do
And
so.
there've got to be people that are trying to do this, right? I mean, there've got to be people that are.
Well, it's like I said, it's happening now. Like we are already shifting over to a new way of approaching the material.
Right. That's right.
And so, and again, you're right. Changing it willy-nilly all the time, realistically, you're not even going to be able to interpret any kind of data or results until after
The dust has settled?
Well, after a 5 or 7 year period, and you have a student that has gone through this, quote, new system over multiple years. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't just after a year go, well, this didn't work.
Right. Well, I mean, you're dealing with people's kids, and so you're dealing with perhaps one of the hottest emotional buttons that you can possibly deal with. If you've got an educated parent who says this system is really full of crap and you are damaging the future of my child, they're going to get very emotional about it, and they're going to, if they have any of the resources to do so, try to demand, or at least be very cranky about and vocal about things should change, things should change, things should change. And it must be interesting if you are if you're on the administrative side, you're saying, okay, well, we are changing things, we are trying this new thing. It's going to take about a decade for us to get all the data, and the parent is just sitting there going, I don't have a decade for you to experiment on my kid. You know what I mean? And now sometimes parents, I think, in charter school systems or other school systems say this is potentially a better thing and I'm going to go for it. I know those are a different animal, but I feel like sometimes parents are just perhaps latching on to anything that might be better than the thing that they've got if they have those resources.
Yeah.
And I guess if they don't, if they're in a public school system where financially, because of the parents' personal financial situation, the family's financial situation, they can't pick up stakes and move somewhere else. They can't pretend they live at their grandmother's house, so they're zoned for a better school or whatever, and they just got to ride through it. That must be frustrating.
Yeah. We are definitely at a huge turning point in, the American educational experience. And
This sounds like a Disney ride. The American educational experience.
it's scary. Scary, scary, scary. We won't have a good... we won't be able to really define, I think, what that new creature is for at least another 20 years.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There's just, you even in what you were saying right then, you threw out all these different options of charter schools and,
Which I know nothing about. Let me be clear. I know nothing about.
There's public education. There's homeschooling. There's all of these things and all of these different philosophies and modes and, the dust will settle in about 20 years, and then we will try to reinvent the wheel again when we realize certain aspects aren't working.
Do we have 20 years, Adam?
Well, that's
we have 20 years?
That's a nice lead into my article. You guys are talking about such wonderful, positive things
for the future.
And this is my sort of last little attempt to talk about the coming apocalypse.
Get it out now.
Because one way or another, you can't talk about this next year.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I stumbled across a couple of different articles. The big one was from an academic journal out of SUNY, the big university in New York. This is Kirsten Moana Thompson's article. She is a film studies professor at Wayne State University, and this is an article that was entitled Apocalyptic Dread, Kierkegaard, and the Cultural Landscape of the Millennium. First, I'm going to start with a little quote from Kierkegaard, who is one of my favorite philosophers. He
would be.
Yeah. He's kind of viewed as kind of the sort of pre-father of the existential movement. He was kind of talking about things, existential philosophy, almost, I think it was like 60 years before it became kind of a movement, a thing. Almost 100 years, really, but 60 years before, the ball started rolling. So first off, we have to define what his definition of dread was. And this was actually from his book called The Concept of Dread. Here we go. Therefore, I must point out that it is altogether different from fear and similar concepts that refer to something definite, whereas anxiety, or dread, is freedom's actuality as the possibility of a possibility.
So that weird thing that keeps you up at night that you can't really
Yes.
define, but you know is out there to get you.
Yes.
It's like, there's a good analogy. Fear, maybe, I don't know if it was fear or not, but something like fear is going camping and knowing there's a bear in the woods.
Okay. Yeah.
Anxiety is going camping and thinking that maybe somewhere in these woods there's a bear.
Yeah. And yes. Yeah. And so in a
Or a clown.
or a clown. Yeah, and in a broad general sense, that's the difference between dread or anxiety and fear. Now, it's also important to point out that his idea of dread came from the idea of being overwhelmed by the possibility of choices that the future would hold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's a whole different thing. But that's the starting point of what he thought dread and was. And so she approached it, of course, by analyzing movies, and specifically American movies. There were no foreign films in sort of her discussion and dissertation and things like that. She's citing things like Minority Report and, zombie movies, Rosemary's Baby, all of these movies that have existed over the last 100 years. And she does even cite examples, silent movies, 1910, 1915, of movies that were dealing with what does our future hold.
Metropolis, perhaps?
Yeah, Metropolis, another one. Yeah. Good one. Yeah. And so, here we are. In the last 10 years, we've had all of these sort of.
The last 10 years.
Yeah. In the last 10 years, we've had sort of all of these. Watershed apocalypse moments. People thought the world was going to end Y2K.
Yep.
2000.
Sure.
And then there were, when the planets started to align, and we are slowly, the planet Earth is shifting into the house of Aquarius, and that
Right.
started, mid-aughts. And now we've got the Mayan calendar is going to end in 2 weeks, and that's the
We've
new
had a string of
apocalypse.
them.
Right. And so, and each time we approach that sort of, that precipice of, that dark, uncertain future, everybody kind of panics. There's a run on survivalist training. There's a run on buying dried goods. There's a run on, look at all the shows that are on TV right now. Walking Dead. There's that Doomsday Prepper show on National Geographic, which
Yeah.
I've kind of gotten into the last month. I like watching it. If you've never seen it, they profile a family and their sort of plan for the impending doom of the planet, and the family walks them through their fallout shelters and their sort of water collection, purification, and their stockpile of dried goods, their hunting capability, and then they rate them. They have a panel of experts that rate their likelihood of survival based on what they presented to this panel.
Neat.
It's fun for me. It's fun for me. But okay, so basically, there's been an overwhelming representation of sort of doomsday and end of the world scenarios in popular culture and entertainment. Walking Dead is probably one of the most popular shows out there right now, and so my question is for you guys. What do you think after we reach December 21st and nothing happens, and December 22nd happens and we move on, what is going to be sort of our culture, and this is complete prediction and guessing, what do you think is going to be like our new cultural focus? Because, we've had over a decade of this sort of focus and furor and fury, and they've even said that Hollywood and all of the publishing houses have actually started to turn away submissions of these end-of-the-world scenario movies and books because
Right.
there's just been an oversaturation.
Right.
There's so many out there right now. It's not profitable to focus on them. So what do you think the next thing's going to be?
I look to Star Trek, and I'm not just because of the references that we make. I look to Star Trek, and I think that it's just, I would postulate, going to be an opposite reaction. And I really do think that the philosophy that is kicking off in the new Star Trek that's taking you back to the 60s philosophy, I think might have a chance for some traction, because we've been going through doomsday, gloom and doom, this kind of stuff, and with advancements in technology and hopefully Congress will be able to get things done and other things in life. I'm hoping that a spirit of hope for the future, faith in humanity, no longer seeing humanity as less of a destructive force and more of a, hey, we can fix global warming. We've been trying, the human race is not perhaps as awful as it would seem if you band together and do something together. So I'm hoping that we're going to see receptiveness to hope in humanity. That's what I would like to see, story-wise at least, coming out in the future.
Okay.
I think we're going to have at least a year of triskaidekaphobia.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going into 2013.
Good call.
And so the year is going to be represented as some sort of unlucky year. And every time there's a Friday the 13th, it's going to be even bigger thing because it's 1313. And I think we're really just going to have this sort of internet buzz about the unfortunate, the cursed year.
Yeah.
And I think that there could be some short-term movie and TV style stuff based around the terrifying 13.
So you're basically saying people will stay stupid.
Yes.
That doesn't go well with my whole faith in humanity argument.
Well, I made a mistake this morning and read a page full of internet comments, and what little burgeoning belief I had in humanity was knocked right back down to its foundation. So I'm having to rebuild back up from that.
It's interesting though. I do think that there's some fatigue, like there's doomsday fatigue, certainly, and I would love a return to some, we can get stuff done. Because ultimately doomsday lines of stories are defeatist attitude, and I can feel defeated enough without a defeatist attitude, and I would rather be hopeful.
Yeah. But he wasn't asking what we hoped for in the coming year. He asked what we were expecting in the coming year.
That's true. But I do think that the ground is, seeds are planted, whatever. I do think that just from a purely reactionist stand, I agree with Aaron's 13 stuff. I do think people are going to be stupid about the number 13. But I do think that the people might be ready, if for nothing else, for a change of pace, for some stories that are a little more hopeful. Which could, I was having this argument with Scott the other day, actually, about what's realism versus fantasy and why people watch entertainment and things like that. We've had a pretty solid run, I think, since 2001, very appropriately, I suppose, of very realistic, gritty, hard reality kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, just for a reactionist, contrarian, whatever kind of thing, that people might be ready for a slightly more fanciful kind of storytelling, which isn't necessarily even my bag, but I'm just saying that we've had, I think people might be ready for something like the opposite of 24. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? In comics, the opposite.
42?
Well, Douglas Adams. That's actually perfect. Yes, very fanciful, right? Hitchhiker's Guide would probably do better in the next decade than it would in this year if they released them as movies. But I mean, like in comics, the Ultimates, which was the ultimate version of the Avengers, which is very gritty, very dark, very realistic. People might be ready for slightly brighter kinds of even superhero comics and things that it'll be different. Like, you can't ever go back to just straight up, I think, out there fantasy. But I think if you go to stories that are brighter while still holding in a set of rules that a reader can believe in, like brighter but grounded, a reason to be hopeful, founded hope, that might be interesting. Again, only purely reactionary.
I do think in a few years we're going to start heading that way. I think
not just because I've browbeaten you into it.
No, I mean, what I think is going to happen and I don't know about the entertainment industry, but it tends to follow. But I think, like in the actual world, I think we're going to start seeing people who are tired of being told the old way is the only right way are going to start. I mean, we're already seeing it being more and more vocal and active, and hopefully making some let's come together sort of changes.
Well, look at Kane's Arcade, the stuff we're talking about, education, the Penny Arcade charity, stuff like that makes me go, people don't suck as much as we think they do sometimes.
Well, I'm going to be negative for a
Damn
moment.
it!
And
This
but-
explicit rating's about to come back real quick.
But I think what my sense of what the world is becoming is there's a return to sort of factions, smaller groups, and while there are some groups that have a very positive spin and are looking to do good, you look even like on a national, nation state scale, and you start to see a more sort of hardline view overtake, countries like Egypt, and some would even argue we're fighting that battle here in this country of competing extreme ideologies. And so,
Although in this country, I think they're getting called out more and more and more. Like,
Yeah.
I think they're being drug into the light more and more. Stuff like the Chick-fil-A stuff and other things. I think, at least here, they're being drug kicking and screaming. I can't speak to overseas, but
yeah.
My hope and sense is, from what I followed and what I know, which isn't much, is that it seems to be in a lot of places the sort of frantic final backlash of
The death throes,
the
if you will.
established ideology with this suddenly strong upcoming ideology, and it may be an extended backlash, but I think we're going to continue to curve to justice,
such
curve
as
to
things like
goodness.
the Republican Party saying, "Oh, this way doesn't work anymore. The way we've been doing things, running campaigns on."
Yeah, even if the Republican campaign changes because they think it will be politically beneficial to them,
and
they're making
if because of that you're more centralist and people that aren't running campaigns on fear, but that have really good conservative views as far as let's protect our, let's be conservationists in a way, get to come forward with really rational ideas. I would love that argument. I think that argument's on its way back. Like I think, I don't know.
All right, I'll
Not to
one-
offend
one
any
final-
Republicans. It's
Sure.
just
one final thought on the matter, and I think we kind of got there at the end of our discussion, was one analysis of many of the movies and of the apocalyptic movies, and again, this is uniquely American cinema, and what do Americans, and I think our viewpoint is, our discussion is uniquely American as well.
Yeah.
Was there any indication that she focused on American movies because we were the ones who focused on doom and gloom and apocalypse, or
Yes.
was that a worldwide
Yes.
phenomenon that
No.
she then showed?
That's exactly where I'm going. Was that there
Okay.
tends to be more the doomsday idea is more of a uniquely American focus for the most part. That's not to say that it's a Japanese subculture of movies that also focus on that too, but we put out a lot more of those kinds of movies than other cultures.
Particularly as mainstream entertainment and not art pieces.
Correct. And so that the two things that the apocalyptic movies tend to focus on are, one, a zombie horde of some kind, this sort of mindless mass homogenization, or the loss of freedom at the hands of a government. And again, how do you lose that freedom? There's an homogenization. There's a sort of there's a leveling out to make everybody the same. And those are sort of the two ideas that come up a lot of times in those apocalyptic type movies.
like The Matrix.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the idea being that part of the reason why we as Americans find that concept so scary and something to rail against and rally against is because it goes against so much of who we are as a culture. Many other cultures in the world, in many other countries, there's a severe revulsion to multiculturalism. You know what I mean? The insistence is, you come into our culture, you assimilate, you adapt. Whereas in America, since our founding, and there's been factions that struggle against it, but there's been an embrace of us as a melting pot, but also taking elements of those different cultures and mixing them together and making something new. So the idea is homogenization is the greatest evil and most terrifying things that we as Americans can think of. And so it's something to be celebrated that we would see that as a bad thing and that we embrace this, plethora of ideas and plethora of cultures and experiences, and we want to acknowledge and embrace all of them. And so that's, I think, something that we can celebrate.
I agree. I agree. I remember in college, in some of the classes I was taking, they were talking about America's we moved away from the melting pot analogy, and we've moved into becoming a salad bowl, which I kind of like.
Yeah. Yes. So salad bowl, positive, happy ending. There
and
we
healthy and good for you, and hopefully will lower our obesity rates.
Yeah, melting pot, you think of fondue, it's cheese and oil.
You want to go get fondue after this?
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to sign-offs, I think. Yeah, some hope and some whatever. So, anyway, that's a nice little
Yeah, see?
end
It
of
ended
the...
happy.
I like that.
You're welcome.
Happy ending. Okay, I am Jeff, and I still have some faith in humanity.
I'm Aaron, and I am steam powered.
I am Adam, and I am the crunchy, slightly sweet pecans on your salad.
I'll say.
That just means he's nuts, right?
Bye-bye, Internet.
Bye, guys.